Welcome back if you've watched the previous two rounds. This is round 3 of the Pretoria Championships. This is Gavin versus Brian. Yes, I'm commenting on my own games. Some people don't think that that's possible, but I've seen a lot of comments where people comment on their own game. Maybe I can give you some more insight into the plays that I make and the mistakes that I make so that you don't make those mistakes yourself. This is, out of the tournament, the best game, I think, that was played. You'll see later why I want to compare this a lot to the final. The final was a good game, don't get me wrong, but nothing as close as this one. As you can see there, I'm turning over my Dynamo, which only has 30 health, so it's very, very risky, and I have no other basics in my hand. So I'm actually quite I'm scared. Gavin's got his Thunderous out. Thunderous is obviously the best starter for my Electric Zekrom deck. And there I drop my Zapdos. This is a mistake I make, and it's not the first one I make in the game. Zapdos has a resistance against physical, which makes it very good, but it has a weakness against lightning. And I just retreated Dynamo to put Zapdos up there against a Thunderous. So Thunderous is going to one-shot it. Little ignorant Brian over there is actually not picking this up, and he's all happy that he's got his little sniper, because Zapdos' random spark gives 50 damage to any one of your opponent's Pokemon, so that's why you call it a sniper, because you can hit some of the benched Pokemon. But unfortunately it's probably only getting one of those off and then one-shot it as Thunderous charges to get 3 energy and then does a Disaster Volt. Gavin gets his own Dynamo out. Shuffles his deck with a Great Ball, and let's see how this goes. Gavin's still playing, and if you've watched the previous 2 rounds you would have seen Gavin's deck. I think he was playing in round 2. He's got quite a chunky deck with some lightning and chunky meaning heavy, some big Pokemon in there with lightning and metal. He's also got an electric in there, but more focus on the Pokemon than on the electric side of it. I've only ever seen him get out 1 electric at a time, never more than that, so I don't even know if he runs more than 1 electric. There I'm talking again and again while Gavin shuffles his second Great Ball where he got his Carablast out. I split the deck. I cut the deck only for Gavin to do his energy search, to look for energy. Seemed all he had in his beginning hand was trainers. There we go, he finds his lightning energy. So Gavin does another energy search, obviously saving me the hassle of cutting the deck, while I just sit there twiddling my thumbs. So he gets a lightning and a metal energy. Now, some of the strategies that I've seen work and not work in the past is with the power of N. N is a card that makes you shuffle, both players shuffle their hands into their deck and draw the number of prizes that they have. There Gavin plays Cheren to draw another 3 cards. With this N card, if your opponent knows that what you've got in your hand, i.e. drawing energy searches and those types of cards, he can make you N, and then you have to shuffle those cards back in the deck. So Gavin's drawn the lightning and the metal, and if I N, that means he puts that back. Gavin used the attack on Thunderous Charge, which lets you search your deck for... and that's exactly what I do, I make him N. Thunderous Charge searches your deck for lightning energy and attaches it. And now I've just made him N, so he did all that, other than the Great Balls, which brought out the basic Pokemon straight away, but if he Great Balled for stage 1 or stage 2, I would make it, he'd be shuffling all those cards back into his deck with the trainers in the discard pile. So I actually got one up there. I made him waste an energy search. Here I offer my deck to cut and wait for him to draw his cards. He didn't offer me his deck to cut. It's just a friendly gesture. It's not anything serious that if you don't cut the person's deck. Oh, there's actually a discussion now. Gavin asked me to cut his deck after he drew his cards, and I was trying to explain to him, no, you need to do that before, because now you've got the 6 cards that you could have stacked, not stacked, and then I cut your deck. It's not really the point. But, I mean, yes, it is a championship, it is a tournament, but it's really a friendly type of environment, we don't have to be too strict about that. So I put out another Dynamo and another Zapdos, because I still haven't learned my lesson, because Zapdos hasn't been one-shotted yet. I've got an electric out, so I can Dynamotor, but there is really nothing in the pile. I slap on a double colorless onto Zapdos, and I do that wonderful random spark to his Dynamo. He's only 30 health Dynamo at the back there, and I draw a quick prize card just from that. I think I'm very clever. I'm sitting here with 120 HP Pokemon. I think that charge can only do, the Disaster Volt can only do 80, so I'm thinking, oh, that's fine, let me just put on 80 damage. And then he points out, but he's resistant to his weakness is lightning, so that was 160 damage, not just 80. Oh, damn it. Well done, Brian. There I quickly push up my Dynamo to the active spot. What I did in my deck is I took out the 4 Dynamos with 40 health and I replaced them with Dynamos with 30 health, because it gives me a free retreat. The Dynamos with 40 health have got a 1 retreat cost, whereas the Dynamos with 30 health can retreat for nothing. This makes it nice because you can put big Pokemon on the bench. You can Dynamotor a Lightning Energy, which is Electric's ability. You can Dynamotor and search your discard pile and put an Electric Energy onto any of the benched Pokemon. So I can Dynamo an Electric Energy onto one of the powerful Pokemon and then retreat for free and push that Pokemon up and do an attack. The Dynamotor only works and brings the energy down to the bench Pokemon, not the active Pokemon, and that's the reason for that. It does make it a little bit harder because your Dynamos are only 30 health. I'm very indecisive here because I'm lacking the energy that I need, and I've only got a Zekrom EX there, which I've just added an energy and Dynamoted another energy onto. Zekrom EX has only got a 3 and 4 energy attacks, so I don't have enough to actually do an attack, so I just put up Electric as kind of like a wall. That's Professor Elm's new theory: search for an evolution and put it into your hand. And then obviously people generally do that and put it straight onto the bench or evolve the card. With N you really don't want to be doing that and sitting, oh look here, by the way, I have this really important evolution, why don't you make me get rid of it with an N? So people generally do that and put it straight onto the bench. So Gavin's got his Thundurus. He's got 2 Thunduruses out, a Carablast, Colbalion, and a Dynamo. He's got, it looks like, some energy in his hand, so he's got plenty of thought to do. He's going to do the Disaster Volt for 80. Electric's got 90 health, obviously why I put it up as a bit of a buffer so I can get my bench set up before he carries on knocking me. The last thing I want is him to knock out one of my EXs and get 2 prizes. That's Level Ball. It's from the new set Next Destinies. So a lot of people haven't seen it before, so I show it to Gavin to let him know. Level Ball lets you search for Pokemon with 90 HP or lower, and you can put it into your hand. This is a little bit better than Pokemon Communication because you don't actually have to have the Pokemon in your hand. A little bit better than Dual Ball because you don't have to flip coins before you actually can search for those Pokemon. If I had some Dual Balls, I'd rather put those in because then you can search for 2 Pokemon at the same time. But Level Ball is quite nice for me to get my Electric set up. It's the only thing I can actually search for in my deck. And set up those Electrics quite nicely so that if any Lightning Energy goes into the discard pile, then I can grab it out. I just pass to Gavin. Gavin uses Energy Retrieval and gets 2 Metal Energies out. Strange that he's using Metal Energies for Disaster Volt, because Disaster Volt does 80 damage, but it requires you to discard an energy. And previously he discarded 2 Metal Energies, and here's the first time that he's discarded a Lightning Energy, because he's got an Electric, so every Lightning Energy he actually discarded, every turn he would have been able to Dynamotor that onto Colbalion or his other Thundurus. That would have been a little bit wiser, as he would have just kept all of that energy in play, which is kind of the strategy that's happening on my deck. He Disaster Volts for 80 and Electric gets knocked out. I move up, I draw a card. I had nothing to do, I had no energy left. I've only drawn 2 energy the whole game, so I passed on to Gavin. Gavin's now thinking. You can see an EX. Oh, he doesn't know what the card actually does, so he asks to read it. Zekrom EX has got a Glinting Claw for 50. Flip a coin. If heads, another 30 onto that damage for lightning and colorless. He's also got a Stronghold for 50 that requires 2 lightning, 2 colorless, and makes you discard 2 energies. Not 2 lightning energies, but any 2 energies from Zekrom EX. I draw no energies again. Quite stumped. I don't have any supporters. So I pass it on back onto Gavin. Gavin's building up his bench there. He's building up his Thunderous. He's constantly getting out 80 damage per turn. And I can't remember here. Yes, there we go. He puts another Metal Energy on Colberline, and then he retreats his Thunderous to bring up his Colberline. See, Dynamotus here before he puts back an active Pokemon. It's actually best practice not to Dynamotor in between your other functions, because just now you Dynamotor onto the Colberline the energy that you just discarded to retreat. You can't do that. You need to promote to active. He didn't do that. He put the energy on a Thunderous, so it's all fine. It's just keep to the order things so that you don't make small mistakes. Then you'll have the judge smacking you on the wrist. Okay, so the Colberline's attack, Metal Horns that he does 30 damage to Zekrom EX, and then the opponent must switch the active Pokemon with a bench Pokemon. So that's why I had to switch Zekrom EX. I picked Thunderous just as another buffer because I'm still drawing no energies. Then over to Gavin's turn. Gavin puts another Metal Energy on Colberline, and now he can do Sacred Sword for 100, but he can only do it. He can't do it straight after the next turn after he's done it. He does, I think he does the Sacred Sword there. He does 100 damage because Thunderous has got 110. You can see I've got a catcher in my hand, a plus power, and okay, I catcher up his electric just to kind of pause the game so that I can actually get some cards. Still no supporters, still no energy. So Thunderous has got 110 health, so he's pretty safe for now. Gavin's indecisive where he's going to put that electric energy, so he decides, okay, let me put it on electric, because electric requires 2 energy to retreat. And I draw an energy there, but now the question is where to put it. I think I've learned now that Zapdos is an easy target for lightning attacks, so I don't really want to power him up. It's a pity because he would have been perfect in this situation to just sit there and snipe. But I added to Zekrom EX, so he can now do his Glinting Claw. Electric's only got 90 health, so it's actually a very, very good option. Okay, I thought I was going to actually put the Zapdos up there. I put up Electric Zekrom EX. I put down the plus power, Glinting Claw. If it's heads, then Electric's down. Yes, it's heads, so that's 90 damage. Oh yes, I remember this now. Gavin's telling me that I need to flip the coin above my shoulder, and it's actually not right. I actually just needed to flip the coin, needed to go above my shoulder and flip in the air. I really didn't need to lift up my hand all the way above my shoulder to flip the coin. Anyway, 90 damage done, 80 damage from Zekrom EX's Glinting Claw, and then the plus power, which does an extra 10 damage to active Pokemon. It's a common mistake as well with Zekrom doing his Bolt Strike and adding a plus power to do 130 damage with his Bolt Strike. The 40 damage that he does to himself is also increased by plus power, so you should do 50 to yourself. I watched a game the other day where they did that, and it was actually a draw because 50 knocked out his own Zekrom, but they didn't realize that. Gavin's putting another lightning energy onto his Thunderous and doing another energy retrieval to get out energy. This is because I've knocked out his only electric, so he needs to now fetch energy in the traditional way. And Colberline does another Metal Horn. I don't understand at this point why he does a Metal Horn, because he could do Sacred Sword and still exist afterwards. I don't understand why he didn't do the Sacred Sword and put more damage onto Zekrom EX so that he can get more damage out of it. I put up Zapdos because obviously Colberline's there and he's metal, so I don't have the weakness. I didn't know what to do with that 4th lightning energy, so I put it on Zekrom EX. I do another Pokemon Catcher, which everybody wants. Swap out your opponent's active Pokemon with one of their benched Pokemon, and you can choose. No coin flip required. There isn't really anything on his side at that point that's got a retreat cost of more than 1, so I bring up Carablast because he had no energy on him. I was just really trying to stall because I need a supporter, I need energy. The deck's not really working. I've drawn 4 energy throughout the entire turn, and I know this because every single energy that goes into my discard pile comes up. But Gavin just simply retreats Carablast, puts up his Thunderous, and smacks out Zapdos for a weakness one-shot, doing 160 points of damage to 120 hit point Pokemon. There's a double colorless onto Zekrom EX. I discard the double colorless to do his strong volt, so that's 50 damage. No extra damage done to him like the previous Zekrom. I find that actually quite funny, and there's a revive to get his Thunderous back out. He wants to evolve but then takes it back quickly. Zekrom, the normal version, his ultimate power, his Bolt Strike, does damage to him, but the Zekrom EX requires discarding of energy, whereas the Reshiram, the basic, requires you to take off cards, so you need to discard fire energy, but the EX version takes damage. I wonder if they did that on purpose, where they swapped the two of discard and taking damage. That's a nice alternative. That's why I run one of the Zekrom EXs, just in case I don't really want to be taking damage. I'd rather be discarding cards. Works very nicely with the electrics, because once you discard those 2 electric cards, which I'm looking now, and I should have done that. I should have discarded 2 electrics, because the minute I brought back Zekrom EX down to the bench because of Colbalion's Metal Horns, I could have dynamoted those 2 electrics straight back onto the bench. I add that last energy onto Thunderous so I can charge and get more energy. I don't know if you noticed, I also took a look at the next 3 cards that I would be drawing to double check if shuffling my deck would be a good idea, and it was. I wasn't getting anything for a long time, so every now and again it's good to shuffle those cards. I think Colbalion there actually eventually uses his Sacred Sword to KO the Thunderous. Now I've got a decision to make, because I don't have a small little Dynamo that I can retreat. I've got electrics. Eventually I just put up electric. I can sacrifice an electric. It's fine, and I draw a N, which doesn't help too much because I only draw 2 cards, but it helps a lot against Gavin, because now Gavin had a pretty good hand size, and I've cut him down to 2. So him being all free with energies and supporters on his side, he can now only draw 2 cards. Okay, offer to cut. Being all sportsmanlike now, just double checking that the other player's not stacking. I'm struggling to pick up my cards. So I draw 3, Gavin draws 2, and it looks like he's limited to another Carablast and another card that I can't see. And I've drawn a Pokemon Catcher. No, I've drawn a Copycat, an Everlight. I put the Everlight straight onto Zekrom EX because he's got some damage already. I really don't want to be giving those last 2 prize cards to a Pokemon Catcher. I'm sure Gavin runs a couple of Pokemon Catchers. He Junipers, which is actually pretty good because my Copycat was pretty useless with Gavin having 2 cards, but he obviously doesn't know I have a Copycat, so he Junipers, throws away his cards and gets 7. Let's see what he does with it. He plays a Catcher. There we go. Thank goodness for that Everlight. Gavin's double checking. If I knock that Pokemon out, can I draw both of those prize cards at the same time? Yep. And here he does. He does a Sacred Sword. So that's an extra 100 damage, which actually leaves my Zekrom EX on 170 damage. He was just 10 HP from being killed at that point. So if that Everlight wasn't on there, the game would be completely over. I play Copycat, and I'm explaining to him that I shuffled that 1 card that I have in, and then I draw another 7. So that's 7 extra cards for me. Gavin's asking here, does that Everlight not get discarded once it's been used once? Like, do I have to constantly fight through that Everlight? And then I explained to him, yeah, it's actually a tool. It stays on the Pokemon. Everlight's a beautiful card. It only works for basics, and it stops 20 damage from attacks. So it won't stop 20 damage from poison or from self-inflicting damage unless it's an attack. Works wonderful on Zekrom. There you see I put down a normal Zekrom with an EX. Lightning energy. I'm probably going to... Yes, there we go. I'm going to Dynamite it twice. Put 2 energy on him. Okay, you can see I'm trying to save my Zekrom EX and stop losing the game. So I discard 2 lightning energy to retreat him, which I can obviously Dynamotor again back into my cards. So there's my Zekrom with an Everlight. So I can Bolt Strike, which normally does 40 damage to your Zekrom, but because I have the Everlight, it only does 20. It's a very nice trick to know. Colbelion's gone. Cheers. Get rid of that hassling Pokemon, and I draw another prize card. So we're equaled up at 2 and 2, but my Zekrom EX is sitting in a very, very vulnerable position there with only needing 10 more hit points dead. So if he's got a catcher, then the game goes to Gavin. This is why it's actually quite a close game, because Gavin actually is holding cards, but he has a lot of power here. He's asking about the Everlight again and why I only took 20 damage as opposed to 40. But yeah, it's a very nice thing to know with Zekrom, that extra damage can just be taken away. And also now with Reshiram EX's ability flips a coin, and I think if it's tails, it gives you 50 damage. With an Everlight, it'll only give you 20 damage or 30 damage because it's from an attack, so it reduces down the damage. Everlight will also work on the bench, whereas Rocky Helmet doesn't work on the bench because Rocky Helmet requires you to be an active Pokemon. So Gavin's still trying to figure out how he's going to win this game, because my deck has actually started to work. I'm starting to get more cards into my hand, so it's not just me sitting there hoping and praying for a support or energy. I've got energy in the discard pile. I've got my electrics. I've got a Zekrom and a Zekrom EX out, so it's looking good. But that Zekrom EX has only got 10 health left, so Gavin obviously doesn't have a catcher, whilst he would have just quickly swapped that out and disaster vaulted for 80, which would win him the game. So he puts a metal energy on his other Colbelion. He disaster vaults Zekrom, which obviously gives him more power. The Everlight takes the 80 damage and makes it only 60. So Zekrom's sitting there with 130 health and only 80 damage. 20 that he did to himself, and 60 that's just happened to him. I think I'm explaining that he just said, oh, I'm going to do 60 damage, and then I would have stood there and thought, oh, I'll reduce that as well. I've just drawn, and in my hand I think I see an electric energy, a Zekrom, a Tynamo, and that's my Mewtwo X in my hand. I only run one of them. I put down the Tynamo because that's just an easy choice. I've got the space on the bench, and I put down the Mewtwo X. Gavin curses a bit, so because it's a very, very powerful card. Mewtwo X does have its weaknesses. Obviously it's weak against Psychic, so it's its own weakness. Obviously there we go, there's an electric energy down on it. Dynamo to 2 energies, and it's already charged up, ready to do 60 damage plus how many energy is on the opposite Pokemon. But I don't bring Mewtwo X up. I do a Disaster Vault and I do another 20 damage. Gavin's really surprised by this Everlight, so he wants to read it again and make sure what's going on there. Okay, so just show it onto him. Okay, so Zekrom will be sitting there with about 100 damage, which is actually quite dangerous, but Gavin doesn't have any seriously charged up Pokemon, so I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem. He can now Outrage for 120 and doesn't need to Bolt Strike anymore because he's only got 100 damage. Like I was saying about Mewtwo, Mewtwo X has got an X-Ball attack that does 20 damage for the number of energy he has and the defending Pokemon. So right now he's got 3 energy, so that's 60 damage. And if he goes up against Colbelion, which has got another energy, then that adds to it. I think I just added a double colorless and another Dynamotor to add another energy. So that's 4 lightning energies, double colorless, and the double colorless on Colbelion. So I'm counting the humongous amount of damage I'm doing. I think it was something like 220. I pick up my last prize card and the game's over. I'm very relieved that I almost lost, pointing out that Zekrom EX only had 10 health left. I flip over my last prize card and it's the support time. I'm quite upset about that. But let's go on to the next round. Let's see what happens and carries on with the Pretoria Championships.